I'm Dan Beck, the director of LGRMS. Thanks for joining me. I want to discuss how we're hurting law enforcement officers within the cities of Georgia and the impact that has on GMA's workers' compensation insurance pool members. Let's look at some numbers.
Over the 5-year period between 2010 and 2014, GMA workers' compensation members suffered almost 11,000 claims, with a total incurred value of almost $86 million. Within that total, law enforcement or police departments suffered 30% of those claims and 47% of the total incurred cost at almost $40 million.
That's a lot of money, not to mention the personal impact of those officers and their families. So, we know we have an issue within law enforcement, right? Do we just accept it as a cost of doing business? No. Any good leader will look at this as an opportunity and want to take action to address these issues. So, how are these officers getting hurt? What do you think are the top causes of these incidents?
The number one cause? You guessed it, motor vehicle incidents. They account for 12% of claims, 54% of dollars, at over $21 million. Number two, arrests and altercations. They account for 22% of claims, 11% of dollars, at over $4 million. Number three, slips, trips, and falls. They account for 17% of claims, 7% of dollars, at almost $3 million. Number four, foot pursuits account for 8% of claims, 7% of dollars, at almost $3 million. And lastly, incidents while training. This could be physical, firearms, or defensive tactics training. These account for 6% of claims, 4% of dollars, at almost $2 million.
Okay, we know where the claims are occurring. So here's the hard question. How do we reduce the risk of these incidents from occurring in the future? You are the expert. You have more knowledge about law enforcement in your little finger than I'll ever have. But I'm going to make a few suggestions and ask a few questions to get the ball rolling on your problem-solving journey.
So how do you reduce the risk of injury from motor vehicle incidents? Like most things, it all starts with the culture and leadership of the department and what they value. How much do you value the safety of your officers versus some other measures? For example, do you value your officers wearing seatbelts versus their comfort or convenience? Do you include the safe operation of motor vehicles as a critical part of your officers' evaluations? These are all important questions that drive behavior. Setting very clear expectations is the next step. Do you have a motor vehicle pursuit and seatbelt policy? A written policy is essential to ensure a department has a consistent expectation in managing these situations. LGRMS can provide you sample policies. Providing quality training. Telling someone they must wear a seatbelt is not training. You must sell each employee on why wearing the seatbelt is important to both the organization and the employee themselves. LGRMS can assist members with multiple types of motor vehicle operator training. Accountability. What do your employees think when you set an expectation and don't hold them accountable? That's correct. That policy is not important to you or the organization. Establish clear consequences for failing to follow expectations and hold employees accountable. Trust me, they may not like it, but they will appreciate it. If you have an unacceptable trend in motor vehicle incidents, start by establishing a goal. Maybe you think you can achieve a 50% reduction, or maybe a 25% reduction is more realistic. Once you have set a goal, develop an action plan to address opportunities for improvement. Then periodically report the status of your goal and plan to your department. LGRMS can assist you with conducting trend analysis and developing action plans. So how do we reduce the risk of injury from arrest and/or altercations? I know there's always going to be someone trying to test your officers, but the only true way to reduce the risk of injury is to reduce the amount of altercations. As we discussed within the motor vehicle slide, it all starts with your culture and leadership. Please ensure you have a use of force and prisoner transport policy to guide your officers in these situations. LGRMS can provide you with these sample policies. Quality training. There are multiple techniques to reduce the amount of altercations. Please make sure your officers are well trained and tested in verbal and de-escalation skills. Backups, tasers, and other less than lethal weapons will also provide your officers with tools to reduce the amount of altercations. So how do we reduce the risk of injury from slips, trips, and falls? These hazards are always around us, but officers need to know that these hazards can affect their lives more than most other police-related activities. Officers need to keep their eyes on path and pay special care when working in and around ditches, curbs, ice, and holes. Proper footwear is essential. Please ensure each officer has a slip-resistant sole and adequate tread before starting the day. We can provide slip, trip, and fall training. So how do we reduce the risk of injury from foot pursuits? Remove your eyes off path, add some speed and obstacles, and you have the massive risks of foot pursuits. Getting back to that culture issue, this is a question you need to ask yourself. Is a shoplifter worth a $70,000 foot pursuit claim? Is the risk worth the reward? These are questions your organization will have to answer. We need to treat police officers like the athletes they are and expect them to be in good physical condition. But no athlete I know is expected to run a full-out sprint without warming up. Stretching, warm-ups, and continual activity are critical to reducing these risks. So how do we reduce the risk of injury from training situations? We are seeing more and more serious injuries from training events. We are suggesting that during any training event, you assign a safety officer. That safety officer will be there to stop training if the risk of injury reaches an unacceptable level. LGRMS can assist you with the development of the safety officer process within your department.
I hope this educated you in some way about the opportunities we have to reduce injuries to law enforcement officers. Please feel free to contact me or any of our LGRMS field staff with any questions, concerns, or requests for service. You can find all of our contact information at lgrms.com. Thanks again and have a safe and productive day.